hopefully we are already streaming. Now, this is going to be a quick Thanksgiving stream. It's going to be a quick Thanksgiving stream because I have to, get going pretty soon, but I wanted to, just share a little bit of time today with anybody who's watching now or on the replay. Truth be told, I started recording this. I started this as a recording, but what happened was I ended up re-recording it like 5 times, and so I said, screw it, let's just do it as a live stream until it's time to go, because right now I'm just waiting for the stuffed mushrooms to be ready so that I can go to my cousin's and aunt's house. But anyway, where to begin? Well, first I want to say I'm thankful for this nice background here. It's made by the person who runs this website. I don't know if this is a valid web address anymore, but that's the original creator. And the title is Crash on Tian Shan, which Tian Shan, if I'm pronouncing it right, is Chinese for Mountains of Heaven. And if we look over here, you can actually see a dropship in the act of crashing. So that's where the title comes from. This is from book number 4 of Dan Simmons's Hyperion Cantos. And that book is titled The Rise of Endymion. And this is an actual destination from that book. Hey, what's up, Lemon Pie? Happy Thanksgiving. Hey, how you doing, Brandon? Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. And so, yeah, this planet here, a lot of, like, in the book, a bunch of, a lot of Asians, Chinese people and stuff moved here. People from Tibet moved here. In fact, this is where the Dalai Lama lives in this particular book. And everyone has to live on these, like, you see these pagoda structures hanging on the edges of mountains, because down at the surface altitude, it's basically just a bunch of thick phosgene gas. So it's not particularly inhabitable, In fact, apparently it's highly acidic. So if you fall down there, you're never being recovered. Like, that's it, you melt. But at higher altitudes where the air is thinner, the heavy gases like phosgene gas sink to the bottom, and you have a place where you can live in the mountains, similar to the planet Venus, where although you can't breathe on Venus, if you're at the ground level, you have high pressure, acid rain, high temperatures, runaway greenhouse effect due to both the carbon and water vapor. The carbon is volcanic in origin. The water vapor is, I guess it's just there or something. But at higher altitudes, you have, normal atmospheric pressure around, Earth normal 14 pounds per square inch, and however many millibars it is, or 1 atmosphere. And the only thing you gotta do is wear a respirator and a poncho. You wear the poncho to deal with the acid rain, and you wear the respirator so you have breathable air. But other than that, it's like 74 degrees at that altitude on Venus. It's like in the 70s, so it's like pretty safe there. And then, of course, how would you, go to that altitude? Well, you would have a balloon, like a helium balloon, a hydrogen balloon. But on Venus, because the atmospheric gases that are heavy over there, like carbon dioxide, you have a different composition. To have a lighter than air gas, you don't necessarily need helium or hydrogen. But that does bring me to an interesting YouTube comment. And I do want to acknowledge that Brandon Looney Tunes Fan 2000, he currently has 2,410 subscribers. Congratulations, Brandon. That is, continually, you just keep grinding. It's a job well done, and I admire and respect that. So anyway, I had this video a while ago I commented on. It was titled, Should Airships Make a Comeback? And apparently, yes, that guy from Veritasium, nice enough guy. But basically, I made a simple comment. 2 comments, actually. Basically, my attitude on airships is we're not bringing them back unless we use hydrogen as a lifting gas. And a lot of people think I'm crazy for saying that, and I even acknowledge that. Hear me out. I know all of you are thinking, but the Hindenburg. If we use helium, airships and blimps will never make a meaningful comeback. I say never give up. Surely we can engineer a solution to static discharge or a workaround, because that is what took down the Hindenburg, actually, to some extent, is a static discharge. The blimp passed through a lightning storm. When they went to drop the rope in order to pull it down, that's when you had that like discharge or exchange of electrical current, which ignited the leaking hydrogen cell. So yeah, there's that. Now let's keep going here. Now, to be fair, hydrogen does tend to leak no matter what. But Perhaps we can use a solar-powered electrolysis to produce hydrogen in situ. So if you have a leak of hydrogen, you can continually replace it. You could even put solar panels on top of your blimp or dirigible. But that isn't the comment I wanted to share. Hopefully I can find my comment because it was hilarious. Someone left a funny comment in response to my comment, and it was just really good. I might have to go into the comment history and find it here. So let's see, we'll scroll through here. It shouldn't be too far in the past, and if I scroll down enough, I should be able to use the search function to just Control F to find it. And look at that, Nerd Poor Real Life Form is wishing people a happy Thanksgiving on his channel as well. Oh, might want to open up the paranormal chick. That's always a fun one. Even when I don't agree with the people thinking that something is real, I do enjoy it. Tokyo Gaijin did a good video stream, I think, about Axonar yesterday. Also, this is a cool channel here about Korean and Japanese manufacturing. So, okay, I'm looking for... dang it. I'm going to have to scroll down a lot more looking for my comment, apparently. We're going to find it. Yes, here it is. Okay, so one person says, honestly, I think the sail effect is the killer of airships. Because essentially a gentle draft of air can drag your blimp around, especially if it's full of hydrogen or something. But, you know, there's some good counter arguments to that perspective or beliefs. With an airfoil is the way to go. But like you covered, that leaves cargo behind. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, so basically, let's read my comment. Maybe the answer is to never land the airship. That's my response to concern about wind and updrafts. Perhaps an ejectable gondola quadcopter could be used. Now, someone points out that would be $750 billion research and development for an ejectable gondola quadcopter in 20 years. Yeah, no, that's an engineering nightmare. Okay, fair enough. And so my response is, so in other words, it needs a military application to speed things along and the obligatory bottomless pit of funding. And one person responds, I suspect the killer to do this at scale is that it conceivably replaces ocean-going container ships. That's an interesting perspective, but I don't buy it. Apparently I liked it because I agreed with their perspective that luxury civilian travel would probably be a real, a real draw. An escape system would be useful if this idea were to be revived. So at least this person acknowledging if blimps were revived, if airships were revived, then yeah, an escape system in some form would be logical. That's basically what I agree in principle. In whatever form you have an escape system, it seems like a good idea to have an escape system. My idea, though, was a bit further in that I think that maybe blimps should have a gondola that can eject so you never have to land the actual blimp. You know, so you use hydrogen, but the idea is that you separate the people from the hydrogen part when you're landing the people, and that reduces the risks of being set aflame significantly, in my opinion, if I had to theorize here. Now, this is the funny comment. It's $1 million comment. And it's in response to my idea that we need a military application in order to have, implementation of airships, revival of airships. Sir, in accordance with the primary mission of ensuring national security through timely and effective delivery of supplies for maintenance and warfighting efforts, I would like to suggest airships. So I think he's being whimsical, but I appreciate that. That's funny, because it's like, in a way, that's what you do need in order to convince, the military types. And, yeah, let's wish happy, Nerd Poor Real Life Form a happy Thanksgiving. Back at you. And we'll do like a little turkey emoji. Oh, we'll do Khan. And a turkey. and a turtle, because I like, yeah, I really do like turtles. I'm a big fan of them. So there we go. And we'll give some likes because everyone's being nice, and we should like the people being nice.
Ring security cam footage.
Oh, this is cool. I think this girl is going to show us a theory.
This was captured back in May of 2021. The witness's ring cam records what looks to be
A theory.
Footage, and you tell me.
So right there, it's probably a bug because there was actually another video like this where you see a cool theory, and it turns out to be like some bug, and somebody like with knowledge of what bugs look like was like, yeah, that's a bug, like an entomologist or some shit like that. Like I could see the resemblance, but I don't think that's a fairy. I don't know what it is, but looks like a mosquito. Okay, I don't know if it's a mosquito, but you know, somebody's perspective can be, you know, be such that you can't tell. I don't know what it is, but I look forward to seeing more comments. I do appreciate the slow motion and all of that. I do really appreciate the effort. Oh, this is cool. This guy did a video on my 3 laws of telescopics get sharp, clear telescope views. All right, let's go into my DIY private playlist, and maybe one day I'll share it. Oh, he's walking on the globe. That's funny.
Fresh air. You just can't beat it. Take it away and, well, real estate values are going to fall into a deep slump.
I want to check my backyard computer real quick.
I've spent a fortune doing their best to
power supply
get
box
to
looks
high
good.
altitudes and get as much of the atmosphere as possible below their telescopes. But how can we get better views with our telescopes if we don't want to climb a mountain or Tiny Planet Man's stratospheric ladder? I'll show you how, right after the owl.
Okay, good. The thermoelectric cooler is working. The motorized focuser appears to be available. Alright. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, that actually did work.
Brilliant.
And a motorized focuser should work if I tell it to go out like 4,000 steps.
In this video, I'm going to discuss
yeah, that's working. So we're good over there. We got the telescope ready for tonight.
What you can do about it. I'm aiming this video typically at people who have just purchased or received a new astronomy telescope and are concerned about the disappointing views they may have experienced in their first few uses of the telescope.
So this is more for eyepieces and not so much cameras. So this is not so much up my alley, but I would imagine this has a lot of useful info. And what's really cool about this video is, looks like he took apart a smaller telescope to show people the mirror.
The accuracy of its surface curvature is anything from 100 to 160 times more accurately made than the most vital moving parts of your motor car. And we've been able to do this magic for 300 years. And here it is.
This is a cool trick.
Just going to put it on.
So basically, if you have like a heat source in front of the mirror, it'll reveal these heat waves somehow. I don't know how.
It almost looks like smoke rising from the surface of the mirror. It's picking up these very subtle changes in the air density above the mirror and showing it to you as these darker areas.
I've seen this happen on one of my telescopes before too.
Much, as you would expect, like smoke. This segment was really to show you that. And I cannot stress enough the importance of allowing your telescope to reach ambient temperature if you're expecting to make good high-resolution observations.
Yeah, that's true actually. That's something I learned too when I had one like that. But what I want to do today was, even though I really don't want to make a habit of, you know, picking on the flat earth community, I don't know, sometimes I can't help it. Like, I mean, they annoy, it annoys me.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways.
That's not what I'm looking for, but this lady here, it annoys me to no end because I have to periodically encounter people in real life who firmly believe that the earth is flat. Oh, that's mad funny. Deej Odyssey is using the Sad Day on Sesame Street picture. I love that picture. It's got like a Big Bird on the table and everyone's like getting ready to eat Thanksgiving dinner. At first it looks like a normal turkey, but then you look at the legs and it's like clearly Big Bird's legs. I just love that picture. And I love that thing, that Sad Day on Sesame Street picture. All right, now anyway, I'm not even necessarily going to be paying attention to this, but so anyway, let's take a look here. So this was a lady named Amanda This. She's a doctor, and one thing that jumped out at me is like, although she's like a big flat Earth person, she'll appear on like live streams and group chats talking about the Earth being flat. My big problem with this lady is, amongst other things, she'll be in those interviews with like guys like Dr. Kaufman. So Dr. Kaufman is that doctor who is going around basically saying viruses don't exist. Like, yeah, like, and that was the thing. I mean, and you can find his videos. It's kind of funny how his videos don't get taken down. And I'm not saying I'm against free speech. I don't want videos getting taken down, but I also am in favor of a fairness doctrine, in that if you're going to take down videos of this type of, group, then you got to take down videos of the guys who are also saying lies. I mean, they're saying obvious lies. Like, we all know viruses basically exist. Like, I know there'll be some conjecture, like, about how we identify viruses, and some methods are more questionable than others. But in general, like, like this thing where people talk about the viruses do or don't exist because some virus was never isolated. It's like, that's not really how you handle or deal with viruses. I'm not an expert, but I've heard it pretty well explained by people who didn't seem like they were in the business of indoctrinating people. And real quick, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to these people. There we go. So we're gonna just skip through this video here and see what we get.
See if the globe is moving in this east-west direction. Yeah.
Because yesterday I watched part of this video. I was like, I think I went from here to here, and I just felt like I was hitting a lot of duds or things. But then when I watched it while playing Nintendo today, it seemed like I was encountering more stuff that I can actually debunk. Hey, what's up, Raquel? I still got to sign up for your Discord. I was surprised because I thought I was on your Discord, but either way, if you got a new Discord, I will hit that up, and I appreciate you giving me the updated info on there. And happy Thanksgiving, of course. So once again, I want to emphasize that I'm not trying to pick on flat earthers. Like, originally there was a time I wanted to do like YouTube videos to pick on flat earthers, and I thought it would be like one big joke. But I mean, I watched a bunch of these like, mainstream pro-science YouTubers, and I like science, but I think some people are pro-science to a fault, in that they hide behind the term science as a sort of shield for, as a shield and excuse to be a dick to people. And I've seen this in a couple examples, so for example, they have this guy named Dave Farina, the science guy, or science guy, what the hell is his name? Let's see, we'll find out. Like, Dave Farina, he's got like a name, Science Professor Dave Explains, which allegedly he's not even a professor. I don't know if that's true, but he might not be a professor. And he spent some time doing the origin of life debate. And look, I get it. Like, if you talk to like a really hardcore, Christian, they're gonna like sometimes defend more perspectives that might be harder to defend. But I don't know. Something about this guy always annoyed me. He comes off as kind of a dick, and gotcha, yeah, no, I'll get it from the message box. And dude, I saw it on the phone this morning while I was running around getting ready for, Thanksgiving and stuff, and, getting myself freshened up so that I'd be able to hurry up and, wait for the mushrooms to go out soon. But, I get it, when I get to my cousin's house, I'll probably do it by the time I get there if I don't do it in the next few minutes. So anyway, getting back on topic here. So I guess, what's a good example here? Well, okay, Dave, I mean, like I said, he's right. His flat earth videos were not bad. It's just that, like, making your fame picking on flat earthers is kind of like picking on low-hanging fruit. On the other hand, when arguing about other scientific topics, obviously he's going to stand in a certain place when it comes to preventative medical treatments and stuff like that. There are times where I just see people picking, like, low-hanging fruit for their arguments, and it's like they're not really challenging themselves. Chemtrail is a good example in that. We know, planes can spray chemicals for cloud seeding. where you might make an argument is say that that people, governments, corporations aren't necessarily spraying the sky to make people dumber, but spraying the sky to, create rain. And this is like not a secret. You can find Zoom meetings that are openly available of municipalities in the Southwest, the American Southwest, talking about their plan and contracting companies to, basically squeeze water out of rain clouds in the Sonoma Valley or someplace in Arizona, stuff like that, and that's a real application of weather modification or whatever terminology they're using for that, and that's not necessarily nefarious. The only issue with weather modification I would have is the playing God routine. I don't mean that as a religious person, I just mean that you do something like this, you have unintended consequences. I mean, taking water out of the atmosphere in your area, like if it's not going to rain where you live and you have a cloud passing by and you get the water to come out of that cloud, well, maybe that cloud was supposed to go downwind and make it rain somewhere else. So if you make it rain over here, now it's not raining over there. And this was an issue in China, and this might become an issue over here. I don't really know, but I can see potential in that, So that's like where I think it's interesting that a lot of the mainstream science communicators or people who pick on low-hanging fruit on YouTube, they'll make, counter arguments to the whole, chemtrail conspiracy theory thing, and that's fine. But they won't really put any, a lot of them won't put any, talk into, real applications. Like, oh yeah, here's a real world example of this being done, stuff like that. I feel that would be a bit more intellectually honest than what they're doing right now. But now getting back to the flat earthers, even though I think that some of these mainstream science guys are one of the guy, there's this guy named something Bob or something like that, the science guy. And I liked his astronomy streams. He had a cool telescope and I liked his astronomy live streams. But then he did some whiny video in January of, the 6th of January. And it was like, oh, how conspiracy theories are dangerous. And it's like, just very one-sided, no empathy. And, just kind of like a lame video. But, to each their own. And then lastly, what was my last straw? That I can understand. Look, I'm willing to forgive people for their political biases because I get it. People are bombarded with information overload and people will pick what they perceive to be the more virtuous side. I think everyone has good intentions, whether you're on the left or the right side of the spectrum. I think almost everyone genuinely means well, they're not trying to hurt other people. They just believe that their political view, their solution to whatever plagues society, that their solution will result in a better outcome for all concerned. Or, sure, everyone has their self-interest. Let's be honest here, right? It's a funny thing about climate change. A lot of times you'll hear appeal to self-interest, extreme weather and stuff like that. And my thing is well, if extreme weather is going to kill people, but the solution is to, limit people's amount of, access to energy or increase the energy cost, that could also have a, net negative on population, or at least on survival and population. Well, at that point, then maybe let the environment change. And then if people die from the changing environment, then that will allow Earth to self-regulate eventually, And if there's no humans left to enjoy the Earth, and half the animals die, well, given enough time, I'm sure the animals will spring back and, rule the planet once again. So, that's not even the issue there. My real issue with the climate arguments is that there's about, a dozen different ways to solve it. And if you argue with a lot of them, you're going to be called names, It's like you have to be on board blindly. You're not really allowed to, criticize 90% of those arguments, depending on where they're coming from. But anyway, let's focus on the topic at hand. So yeah, I was watching this compilation video, and it was this lady who, is a doctor who believes the earth is flat, and this guy who looks kind of like a hippie, but he seems like a reasonable guy, partly because he thinks the earth is round. And also I want to give a shout out to Raquel for getting the pies out. I hope they're delicious.
Away from us, and we can bring the sun back into view.
Oh, good. Okay, this is great. This is great. It's actually very
model, right? You have
He's gonna ask a question about, I think, the sun and all of that.
For the branch.
Good. Oh God. Okay, we'll hear it out. Oh yeah, this was fucking terrible.
Flying through the earth without any engine on them, and just start zooming. Just begin the zoom from there and keep going and keep going, and show me Australia with like ships upside down.
Wait,
They don't do that.
Have you ever used Google Earth?
They're not. You mean CGI Earth?
Well, to be fair, yeah, I wouldn't tell a flat earther to use Google Earth and expect them to trust it. But essentially what she's saying is that, oh, you could prove the earth is round by, going into space, taking a picture of Australia showing upside down ships. And I mean, this is just a gross misunderstanding of how this works. But if you were to show a picture of, upside down ships, I mean, I'm sure there would be some discrepancy, some reason why this lady would not accept it. And sometimes I might understand. I might say, you know what, you're right. Why should you trust the person who took this picture? But I think there's going to be among the number of dishonest statements you'll hear from her, where she'll say like, oh, we'll believe you if you just do this. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure if we did just what she says, she wouldn't believe, what we're showing her. And I want to give a shout out to Slim Nim, who says,
No, Google.
Gobble gobble day, get a bird in ya. Yeah. I hope my cousin doesn't order fucking catering again. That shit sucked last year. Don't tell her I said that. I gave you a duck. Why, thank you. Actually, I've been wanting to have some duck, actually. I once had goose, not goose. What the hell did I have? Did I have duck soup? Hell, I always mix them up. I think I had duck once. Yeah, I had a duck soup. It was pretty good. Very greasy, but it was in a stew. Kind of made me feel like lethargic when I was done, but it was good.
Google Earth. I mean, I've seen.
It's CGI. That's all CGI.
But my building looks a lot like my building when I.
Oh
zoom
yeah,
in.
they'll take pictures and then they'll transition into the pictures they took in their little airplane.
Did I say Happy Thanksgiving? Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, Slim Nim. I don't know if I said that. My memory is a little faulty here because I'm watching this lady who's making me lose brain cells.
But I'm talking about outer space. Go to outer space and zoom in with no transitions, nothing like that, no CGI tricks, and show it to me. They don't.
Like. Maybe that's already been done, but I suspect if you were to do exactly what she's asking, that it just wouldn't be satisfactory to her. But let's keep going.
Don't do that. Anybody can look up Earth, ball Earth, and it's every single one is CGI or.
See, that's also dishonest to say that you could look up ball Earth and every one of them is CGI. Because, I mean, that's the one I was looking at yesterday was the Deep Space Epic Discover... Epic is Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera. And is this CGI? I mean, that's a picture from out past the moon, actually, or past, the orbit of the moon. And actually looks like I could download a high-res image. Oh, wow, that's nice. So let's see what we get here. So we, enlarge that. And one thing you're going to notice here is you're going to see these color fringings in the more out of focus areas on the edge here. You're going to see some red. You might even see some green on one side. But all in all, it's a very clear picture of the Earth, And the purpose of this camera isn't necessarily to get the clearest picture, but to get detailed information on the atmosphere, on particular atmospheric gases. And what we can do is we should be able to, if we do... We can look up the filters that are used in the Epic camera, in the Deep Space Climate Observatory or whatever it's called. And the only thing is, I wish we had like a more English version of what type of filters are in that camera. So I'm gonna hopefully find something. So this is basically like one of the key points here, and I read this elsewhere, but it's here in the Wikipedia article as well. So they're talking about the date that the camera took a picture of the moon passing in front of the Earth, and that's because it is out past lunar orbit. And you'll get arguments from like flat earthers. They'll always say this looks like some Disney level bullshit. I don't know what to tell them. It's like if they don't want to believe that, that's cool. Hey, what's up, David Glenn? Happy Thanksgiving. Or as John Wayne would say, Happy Thanksgiving, Pilgrim. I don't know if he would actually say that, but I'm going to say it right now. Pilgrim. John Wayne, Pilgrim. So I was raising ducks for my ex-sister-in-law. It was time to send them to the farm. She said she didn't want them now. I told her that's okay. I have a great recipe for a fantastic orange glaze sauce. She picked them up the next day. That's funny. But yes, indeed. Happy Thanksgiving, Mr. David Glenn. So let's see. We also have this cool picture here I just noticed, and it is a picture of, looks like a shadow from one of the like lunar eclipses, yeah, or solar eclipses actually. That's kind of cool. But let's see what we got here. Let's play back the moon one. So the Earth looks great in this camera, but when the moon flies by, wait, is this the one with the moon in front of it? Maybe not. Unfortunately, I don't think it lets me play it like an animated GIF in here. That sucks because my problem is playing the animated GIF. I don't think I have a way of pausing it, you know, and I really want to pause it because I would highlight the color fringing on the image. But that's okay. It's not important. So they say they got a 10-channel spectrometer that uses a Cassegrain telescope, which is like a Celestron C8, comprised of 2 filter wheels, 6 positions each, 1 open hole to pass through the spectral filters. So basically, plus 5 spectral filters. So let's see here. It's a reflecting Ritchie-Creighton design with an aperture of about 9 inches, 30 centimeters. It says actually. F9 3.8, but I want the filters. I want to know. So it's telling us the camera is a 2048 by 2048 resolution. It's got a CCD camera, which tends to have better, you know, characteristics in long exposure imaging or something like that. 10 narrowband channels. So now it's only telling us the nanometers. So what we can do is we could probably just like look at the numbers and figure this out ourselves. Now, only problem is that sometimes I'll come across these EM spectrums that use like to the 10th power or minus -5 to the power, and I'm just like confused by that. This one looks like it's actually giving me something. So, okay, 317, 325, 340. So we know that 317, 320, 340 nanometers is going to be somewhere over here in the purple or blue area, I guess. And it almost looks like it's actually in the gamma ray region, if I'm comprehending. Actually, it's in the violet area. Then we got 443, 552, 680. So then we get blue, red. So basically you got red, blue, and green filters in there right off the bat. 779 and 764, and you got infrared. And so in the near infrared area, you can start to see details you otherwise wouldn't see. Later, I see you later, Mr. Slim Nim. Good luck on the farm. A proper gift play lets you go frame by frame. Yeah, I figure, I could open it up in Adobe or, you know, DaVinci, but maybe I should just get a proper gift player. I mean, normally, I almost never use a gift player. Back in the day, I think I used to use, like, ACDC or View Pro to do that. But bottom line is, why am I talking about these filters? Well, basically, these pictures, this picture, and the one with the moon passed by, every frame from that picture is taken 30 seconds apart from each other. So you take a picture in the red filter, wait 30 seconds, take a picture in the blue filter, wait 30 seconds. And you can see, we see like a lot of the blue color in the coral reefs over here in the Caribbean, I guess, if that's what you call this area. You know, see, we got that light blue there. So we're getting pretty accurate colors from what we would expect to see from an airplane. And some of the filters will tune into carbon dioxide, and they can actually measure based on the amount of light they're picking up from a certain filter how much of a given element is in the atmosphere. And so even though I may not trust the mainstream climate agenda, I mean, we have instruments gathering real data. You know, whether we agree how that data is being used or interpreted, that's a different story. But, you know. And what is this here? This is an interesting little... I'm sure flat earth enthusiasts would have a field day with this. I'm not sure how, but It's almost trying to show you the relative perspective of something, like the sun moving and how the satellite orbits the Earth. And I'm a little confused about why it's doing this ultra-wide path. Oh, I see. This must be when it was launched and then inserted into this high orbit that it remains more or less permanently in. That seems to be what's going on here. So maybe they brought it out here to pick up some extra speed to keep it in, because it's in a really high orbit. And then this is like another perspective. Once again, obviously the sun doesn't go around the Earth, but you can flip it around, you know, for as a matter of perspective here. In fact, now it doesn't even look like it's orbiting the Earth. That's an interesting perspective. I'm not going to pretend to comprehend what is going on here. This is one of those things that I'd have to sit down and like do some brain work and stuff. But it says trajectory. What's up there, Bone? Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. It's all good. You don't have to stay. It's just good to see you and hear you. And I hope you enjoy the remainder of your Thanksgiving. Yeah, it does look like a doodling. I'll admit that. It definitely looks like a doodling, you know? But, you know, basically the point is like, why was I going down that rabbit hole of how the camera works? Well, let's see.
Are composites. And even the
Oh, now I remember.
and it's every single one is CGI or a composite.
So she goes, every picture of the Earth that you can find is CGI or composite. That's true. I mean, maybe not every single one, but it is true. That camera I just showed you, and I didn't show you the filter wheel. So let's show you the filter wheel, because this is like, I mentioned different imaging filters, right? And, well, what does the imaging filter look like? Well, they look like this. And these are the ones that the imaging unit I just showed you. This is the one that the orbital camera is using. You too, David Glenn. You have a good day, man. So, you know, you got the different filters here. These are real. They had to build this. You know, these cost like $1,000 each at least, if not more. Each of these pieces of glass here. And, you know, you're not going to build something like this just for the sake of money laundering. Because that's like what a lot of flat earthers will say. It's like a money laundering scam to do this type of work here. Or to fund of these types of projects. But, you know, you see you got a model of the telescope, the way that the light enters and the light bounces off the mirror. Like, this is all... Oh, Mikkel left? Oh, well, thank you, Mikkel. Have a happy Thanksgiving. So, yeah, you know, like, I mean, that's a real thing. Let's see what this says. This looks like it might be going either way. Okay, so this is, I think it's one of the flat earth debunking websites. Yeah, it is. Lunar images from Discover Epic. So, actually, I'd never even looked at this page before. And it looks like it's jiving with my argument. Okay, Discover is a spacecraft positioned between Earth and the Sun. It carries the Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera that continuously takes images of Earth in 10 wavelengths from 317 nanometer to 780, which goes from like basically violet, red, blue, green, and near infrared, which is like, you know, invisible to the eye, but lets you gather some useful data. And sometimes the moon can appear in epic images, and flat earthers incorrectly use the color fringing around the moon to dismiss them as fake. Now, not every flat earther will. Some flat earthers will just say that the moon looks like it's made, you know, as a half-assed Photoshop job. And my thing is like, well, if you were gonna Photoshop the moon, wouldn't you do a good job doing it? Like, you know, if anything, the fact that it looks like a bad Photoshop job to these people is, in my opinion, evidence that it's all the more real. But that being besides the point, the color fringing in particular is because the images are taken about 30 seconds apart for each, you know, individual frame. You have 3 colors at least, and those pictures are 30 seconds apart. So you're going to have that color fringing because it's not calibrated or focused on the moon. That's why the entire moon is blurry, for the same reason we have color fringing. In reality, and this is true, like the lady was saying that, oh, all these pictures are composite, right? That's what Amanda Vollmer said. In reality, the full color images... Okay, so first let's read the whole thing again. They incorrectly dismissed the color fringing around the moon, and, they incorrectly used the color fringing around the moon to dismiss them as fake. In reality, the full color images are composites of 3 single color images taken in consecutive exposures in a 1 minute span. Okay, so... you know, within a minute, they actually are capturing multiple filters. As a result, the moon has shifted in the time span and is not perfectly aligned in the different exposures, causing fringing, which I know. And I mean, like, the thing is, these filter wheels, I mean, they sell these to people like me. You know, I use these to take pictures from the ground, and whether I use a regular SLR camera or a black and white camera using this type of filter wheel, and it's very interesting. I've never seen this filter wheel before, but it's very interesting because, like, this is a company I've never heard of, and it looks like they're very expensive. This must be like used by real scientists. It's interesting to me that they have these 12 millimeter. I have a 36 millimeter filter wheel. I don't know why, like, they're charging a lot for 12. I don't even know what this 12.5 millimeter standard. What I like about this filter wheel is it has these little cylindrical light blockers on it that probably helps to keep stray light out. So that's really cool. But anyway, point is that I'm using the same method of imaging that this satellite is using. So, you know, if I can do it, a flat earther can do it on the ground. They can, you know, buy a telescope, they could buy this equipment, they could play with it, they can see how the imaging works, and then they can take a normal camera and take the same type of pictures, and they'll see that, yeah, it's a little bit more of a process to go from, you know, the filtered images, the 3-color composite, into a final image versus just taking a single picture. But if they're being honest, they'll also see the logic as to why we do the composite. And it's basically because you're wasting a lot of photons if you're using a color image sensor instead of a black and white image sensor. And when you want to make every photon count, and in this case, we want to actually measure elements. We want to measure like atmospheric content. And so it becomes all the more necessary to use this method of imaging. But my point is that the data is very real data. This is using the original data is real. It's not made up. They're getting pictures of this from the distance. You can measure the size, the focal length, you know. If you know the optical instrument, which is very well documented, you can say, okay, well, some pictures the US looks larger or smaller. You can actually simulate that if you want. You know, there's things to do. But real quick, David Glenn says, if the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. And that's another funny thing. Yeah, I know, right? Isn't this a great shirt, man? Punk Water is the man, and I'm proud to have a shirt with him on it. Oh, one moment. Okay, just gotta check the oven in 10 minutes. Got startled to hear the sound of my headphones here, the alarms. All right, let's see here, 3:34. So I got to check the oven at 3:44, basically. So I guess we'll end that stream around that time. So anyway, I could put it on hold. I don't know. I probably should just end the stream and play some Nintendo while I'm getting ready to go. You know, watch the oven. Don't want to burn anything, right? So anyway. The full color images are composite of 3 single color images. As a result, the moon had shifted in that time span and is not perfectly aligned for the different exposures, causing fringing. Let's see what else they say. Is there audio here? Is this just a video of a still? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, I see what they're doing here. Okay, let's rewind that. Okay, that's why it's a video. Okay, so I think what they're trying to demonstrate is that when you have the green channel, 551 nanometer, red channel 680 nanometer, and blue channel, and then all channels combined. So when you take them individually, you don't see the color fringing. When you combine them, you see the color fringing. And the point is that these colors you're seeing on the ground, the ocean, all of this crap, it's literally based on those 3 channels of color. Those red, blue, and green channels were combined, just put on top of each other. And you get a real picture. That's like kind of like my point. So this broad can say, oh, they're all composites. And I don't think they're all composites, but the ones that are composites are based on very real imaging data, raw imaging data. In fact, probably more accurate than the imaging data you'd get from, you know, any camera she's ever used. In fact, she does talk about using cameras to photograph ships
And even the people
going
who make
over the
concept-
horizon. And it's like, well, let's just hear her out. And Padawannabe, the Padawannabe says, happy, eat food, and feel bloated day. Wife, thank you. You too there, the Padawannabe.
Artists, they say, with their repeat clouds, it's a joke. I mean, every single year they give you a new image, and every single one is different. They're not consistent at all. They could also launch a rocket in the middle.
Okay, here's like dishonest experiment proposal number 2. Oh, is this number 1? Let's see.
Of like a huge massive land. They always do rockets near water because they always angle and curve and go down into the water. So they could do that. They could prove it to us by launching a rocket in the middle of a huge mass to prove that it's actually going up past the firmament, which they can't get past. You can look up Operation Fishbowl for.
Oh, you can just hand wave. Just, you know, it can't get past the firmament. Just look up Operation Fishbowl. Oh, okay. Yeah, take your word for it. You know. But in seriousness, yeah, that's a thing. I mean, you can look up Operation Fishbowl. As I understand it, it was an experiment involving nuking the upper atmosphere. And part of the experiment was actually to map, or at least it did help map the Van Allen radiation belts, because you got magnetic field bands, basically, you know, little layers of magnetic field. And yeah, charged particles, anything that was irradiated that is a particle and that is charged with a positive or negative charge would actually then follow those magnetic field lines. And so actually I was gonna, let's look up Operation Fishbowl real quick. And you know what, I might check on the mushrooms and come back to you guys. I might actually do that. I should have started this through Restream Studio so that I could invite myself on my phone. Starfish Prime, 1.4 megaton high altitude nuclear test explosion. And, you know, does this prove that they couldn't? Because basically these flat earthers, they want to be like, oh yeah, they tried shooting nukes at the dome and they couldn't break it. And, I mean, granted, I'm once again reading Wikipedia, so I'm not going to pretend that this is the arbiter of truth. But, I mean, you know, what are we going to see here? I think they just like looking at these superficial diagrams of domes to make their claims. And actually, we could probably just research, okay, well, what's the altitude of the PGM-17 Thor missile? $280 miles, about to, okay, cool. Apparently, they can go even higher. About 35,000 feet in 1962. 250 miles in 1962. All right, let's read the chat real quick. Yes, that's funny, David Glenn. I think she looks like she gives out raw Brussels sprouts at Halloween. How do you even have satellites in the sky then, according to these opinions? Oh, that's easy. That's easy. That's easy. Oh, in fact, I mean, I don't believe this, but I'll show you this one here. So, satellites are balloons. That's like basically the Google search phrase right there. Now, they do have actual satellite or sataloons or like experimental ones and proposals therein. But if you like watch some of the videos from the channel I'm watching right now, he'll show these pictures of in fact, like this right here. So they'll show you this picture and they'll be like, get that fuck off my screen. Yeah. So they'll be like, see, that looks like a satellite. That's a balloon. Therefore, all satellites are this. And it's like, you know, it's like just because this exists doesn't make it mutually exclusive from conventional satellites, right? I mean, like, you know, you can have one and the other, you know, like, but they want to, you know, this is just something that supports their premise, so they go for it. You know, they push it, they love it, you know. But that's their answer to it. I don't agree with it, but that's their bullshit answer to this. And this doesn't work adequately because a balloon cannot circle the Earth. A balloon can't circle the Earth at the same speed as a satellite. That alone invalidates it. Like, you know, a satellite goes considerably faster. So, you know, they can say what they want, but it doesn't really, you know, matter. In fact, the Chinese spy balloon, that one basically looked like looked like this more or less. You know, it has a solar power, you know, supply on it, but that doesn't make, you know, satellites irrelevant. You can shoot down a balloon more easily than a satellite, but satellites have other advantages just by being able to loiter a little bit longer within a zone that alone makes it convenient. But yeah, that's what these folks believe in about satellites.
For that. And then they could show us a 48-hour straight in any direction flight, 500 miles per hour. Okay, just go straight, and that the plane will return where it landed. And that's never been done ever. It's a very simple experiment that they could do to prove, but they don't and they can't, because that nothing's been circumnavigated as far as just keep going straight. That's not what's happening.
So let's talk.
They do return where it landed, and that's never go straight. That the plane will return where it landed, and that's never been done.
So if you want someone to invest in flying a plane straight around the world and landing, okay, go pay for it. I mean, nobody wants to pay for that much fuel because nobody's obligated to prove your ridiculous theory. But even worse, if somebody did put the money into that experiment, do you think she's really going to buy it? You think she's going to be like, oh, thank you for demonstrating that. I now am a glober. I don't even know how I would react to hearing this on in real life. I think I would start laughing hysterically and just walk away.
Ever. It's a very simple experiment that they could do to prove, but they don't and they can't, because that nothing's been circumnavigated as far as going just
and
keep
that's
going
a great
straight.
point,
That's not
because
what's
actually
happening.
she's going
Let's
to
talk
bring
about
us to that point.
circumnavigation. There is a circumnavigation club of amateur
Just
yachtsmen.
fly along a Earth parallel.
They have
you say.
rules they have to follow. They've got to travel 23,000
That's right.
miles. They have to cross the equator 3 times. They cut through Panama and Suez. Why haven't they noticed this problem?
Well, some have actually. I believe one of
I'm gonna
Bob
take a
Noto
chance
from
with my,
Globebusters
YouTube
interviewed one.
channel.
I was on that show.
And I'm going to walk
who
away and
had
check on the
done
mushrooms
those races,
while
and he
this is playing,
knew
and I'm
that
gonna
they
watch
were
it at the same
actually,
time,
because
alright?
the
So that
magnetic
I'm on
north
the
is in the
same page
center
when
and
I
they're
come
just
back,
following
I
the
poke fun
compass.
at
The
that.
compass
How
is
does
always
that
going to
sound
pull
to you
them
guys?
in that circle. He knew that something was wrong, and he talks about it. I'll see if I can find that one for you. It was really well done.
She's saying when they circumnavigate, they're kind of going.
They're going around the flat Earth,
parallel
yeah.
to the rim. Around.
Not that far. They can't go that far. I mean, you can't go past the south of the 60th north of the parallel. But the magnetic North Pole, that motionless space, that's guiding the ship. Everyone knows in ships that Polaris guides the ships, and every point out from there heads south, right? And so this is just a lie to manipulate people into believing the globe model. That's been circumnavigated. It hasn't. They're just going around the flat plane.
But there's a whole organization of people who've circumnavigated. I mean,
yeah, they haven't gone around a ball. They're just going around a flat Earth. That's it. You can circumnavigate. They're all disciples of the ball Earth. So, when you're in a religion, that's how you're going to fit in what you think you're seeing. That's the problem. You have to burst through the lies first. And so, but it's very easy to explain what they're doing. We have their maps. When you look at the flat Earth map, they're just going in all around the circumnavigating on the flat plane. They're coming back to where they were, just around the landmasses. They go to their convenient spaces where they can fuel up and get food and all that kind of stuff. They're not going off course. They're following their compass that's leading them the east-west, which east-west goes around in a circle. And everything is, when you have magnetic north, the compass will point to that center spot, and then everything else is south from there. And so if you have your compass thinking what you're going in 4 directions when you're not, then of course it's going to look great on paper, but that's not what's happening. So they just haven't done these proper experiments to show us, to just shut us up. Just do it. Just do those things, and then all the flat earthers will magically go away.
Well, but, you understand why they're not worried about you, right? Because
they're indoctrinated, sure.
No. Because all the technologies, like, for example, the prediction of sunrise.
Day after day.
Okay, so is the thing flat Earth people love doing?
The man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still.
So they're playing the Fool on the Hill Beatles cover, and I think they're trying to imply that the round globe baller, as they call it, is the Fool. But one thing she's gonna do is make an assertion about the size of the sun, and they're trying to make that claim here that the sun isn't setting here. Their claim is that it's actually moving away, and when it goes far away, it goes into what we call they call it the vanishing point, and that you need to have Superman vision to see it. past a certain distance, and that's the reason why it looks like it's going away. It's not actually setting, it's going to the vanishing point or something. And perceptually the size does appear to change, but considering that the brightness falls off as it's going through more layers of atmosphere, that would explain, you know, why the apparent size shrinks. And as a matter of fact, if you were to use a imaging filter, and there are experiments of this type, we could actually find, I think, you know, Earth size set. Oh, sorry, sun, not Earth. It does sound like a lot of work, but it's less work than having to actually really, you know, think about it. So angular size of the sun, and so bummer. Thank you. I was muted. But I don't want to make a habit of using one website as my source. But this is something you can replicate. And I think the key is you're either controlling the exposure settings. In fact, I'm going to open that tab just to see if they explain it, how they did it. This is actually cool because I've seen this in Stellarium when I want to see how objects look throughout the year. So this is if you take a picture every month or every day throughout the year, the sun, in fact, there was a flat earth model that explained that the sun moves in this pattern, and that was the explanation for the seasons. But the reason it moves like this is really because of the way we orbit the sun while we're rotating. In fact, well, not so much rotating as it is just the fact we orbit the sun. Yeah, from our perspective, it would look like this. And you can replicate that if you care to simulate that. But let's see here. We're going to find a... So like this picture here, it looks like the sun is bigger, but it also looks brighter over on the left and the right. So it doesn't really, you know, demonstrate that it's changing size. There's two ways to deal with this. Now, in this website, I'm going to guess they used exposure settings. They probably used a neutral density filter or simply stopped down the aperture and the shutter speed. The sun's apparent size does change, but that happens in a yearly cycle. Okay, it's a little bit different. We're talking about on a day-to-day basis, like during the day. Some flat earthers insist that the sun changes its size during the day, but this happens simply because of their photography skills, or lack thereof. That's exactly what I was saying. They didn't attempt to control the sun glare using a solar filter, or exposure settings, and that's a good example. So sun, day star, quark, HA filter. So if I want to do my own experiment, I would use this piece of kit right here. And the only problem is that I would end up with a lot of magnification, and so I would need to, like, you know, zoom out a lot. But the beauty is I can do that in one of my smaller telescopes. And essentially what we would do is we'd get a full disk image of the sun like this. Doesn't necessarily have to be as fancy. It could be in black and white. And we would have to follow it from sunrise to sunset. And, you know, it might look something like this or something like this. So we follow it from sunrise to sunset. And then we look at the picture. We say, how many pixels does the sun occupy? And that is the answer. It's like, okay, well, it didn't actually occupy more or less pixels, you know, So then it apparently is not changing size throughout the day, right? And you can see this is what a raw unprocessed image looks like. It kind of drifts in and out of the frame, so you have to track it, sometimes almost using a manual method. Like I said earlier, zooming out helps. One of these days we'll sit down and process my raw data so I can show you what my imaging looks like. So getting back to the chat, we got some communications here, and our friends
Hi, Stefano.
in our chat say
AC outlet. It needs of the sun that I chose. Level that.
So we can see sunspots, and we can like adjust the band pass to see this crap over here, which is really cool. In fact, I now know how to. You know what? If it wasn't Thanksgiving, today would have been a great day to use my solar filter. The only issue of using the solar filter in the winter is if it gets too cold outside, it's hard to control it. But anyway, let's just get back on track here. So yeah, they argue if photography they didn't attempt to control the sun glare using a solar filter or exposure settings. And that's the thing, they could have used both or either one, and they didn't use either. And that reminds me of this lady. The fact that the apparent size of the sun remains constant throughout the day is one of the so many observations that invalidates the flat Earth model. And I just remember there's this lady, she's Coco for Cuckoo Puffs. What she does is she points the camera at the sun, and then she says she's seeing alien ships. See those pictures up there? All alien ships according to her. And the problem is that, you know, she sucks at photography. One time she points the camera at a ring light and says, look, you got a completely different type of lens flare when you point it at the ring light, therefore my pictures of the sun are real. And it's like, but lady, a ring light is shaped like a ring. Now, I don't know what this is, but I do know she's been caught doing fakes. All right, let's get back on topic here, because times is wasting. This is how I've learned that people are not right in their opinion. They just simply don't accept that there are others with thoughts. They dismiss everything, so why wouldn't they dismiss the truth? Yeah, it's one thing to have an opinion, a genuine opinion, but if you are truly dismissive of everything, and this is something that I grapple with when I'm talking about climate change with people, like I get into arguments with people on both sides of the aisle on climate change because I'm trying to keep an open mind, and one thing I think is that it's important for us to be accurate when we're going to oppose some bullshit agenda. We need to be accurate, and so yes, I might have to call out someone for a discrepancy, because I'm trying to endeavor to keep my side of the debate accurate so that they can't be called out for being wrong and dismissed wholesale. I checked on the mushrooms. That'll be fine. The mushrooms will be fine. Don't worry. If anything, make them a little more crispy, you know what I mean? Give them a little more crisp. Now, they were pretty soggy looking when I last checked them, so worst case scenario, we get a grease fire. No worries. I'm kidding. Well, I'm not going to be here long anyway.
Still, nobody
so at least we have an explanation.
They can see
we have a good explanation for this, and I proposed a valid experiment. I proposed a valid experiment for replicating the theory I put forth just now. Or is it a theory? I guess it could be a theory. I have a theory. I have to demonstrate my theory to say, you know, I proved my theory, so to speak. But that's another thing. People misunderstand the definition of the word theory a lot. You know, and side note, Padawannabe, Eric O'Sullivan bought a beautiful Valkyrie from the SDF Macross movie. Do you remember Love? And he made me jealous, but not. Jokes aside, he was a little disappointed that there is some assembly required, and you got to cut some parts off of runners. It's like a $300 model, you know. But I bought some good sandpaper sticks. I bought additional ones, and these go up to 10,000 grit. So apparently they go like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10,000 grit. But now I got like low grit from like 120, 240, 400, 600, 800, 1,000, 2,000, up to 10,000 grit. But it skips like every other. But these allow me to get a nice shiny sanding going, so I'm happy about that. If they won't accept a different idea, they can't be enlightened. Okay, here we are. If they won't accept a... Did I read this already? I did read this already. Wait, no, I didn't read that. If they won't accept a different idea, they can't be enlightened with a closed mind. Discussion and thought provide truth without I hate how YouTube blocks the text with a heart. Without you are just saying an opinion. I see. Discussion and thought provide truth without those... Wait. Yeah? Discussion and thought. And that's the thing. There's not active thought going on in a lot of these cases. Or the thought that's going on. It's like, unfortunately, like, you know, people on other sides of the aisle, when they get into debates, I think debates... I don't like the nature of debate because it's like it fixates on winning the debate, you know? And it's like, yeah, you want to win the debate, but I think that maybe, you know, we should put some consideration that, you know, you want both people to maybe learn something new and walk away. And generally a flat earth debate to me would be like me learning what talking points they're using now so that I can be better armed to deal with them next time, or to at least pretend. I wouldn't say pretend, but sometimes you got to have some empathy to win someone over. But I think in a lot of cases with a flat earth argument, exercising that empathy isn't going to win anything over. If someone doesn't genuinely want to learn, and they may actually genuinely believe their position, even if they're approaching it in a dishonest way. Although I think this lady here is being dishonest. I don't think she's either dumb or dishonest, because, you know, there's people who will look to an authority and say, this person agrees with me, and they're a doctor, you know, and this lady, she is the doctor perpetuating these things. But let's keep going here. Might have to go in a second.
Well on the way, hid in a cloud, the land of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud.
Why not both? I forgot what I said. They won't accept a different idea. Or is it the whole both sides having some empathy? Yeah, I think so, if that's what we're talking about.
But nobody ever.
You're right. I shouldn't rule out dumb and dishonest coexisting in the same person. Like, sure, I want to try to attribute that maybe this person's not being dishonest and this person's dumb. But, yeah, I mean, that even that doctor has a capacity for that. And it's something I mentioned earlier when nobody was on the stream yet, was this doctor is also one of these people who interviewed Dr. Andrew Kaufman. Andrew Kaufman went around saying viruses don't exist. And what pisses me off about Kaufman is that he never gets censored, or at least not censored enough. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of censorship. My thing is just that if people are getting censored for less, and then you got a guy literally going around saying viruses don't exist, and he's not getting censored, that makes me a little sus. It's like, is this something that the establishment, quote unquote, wants to allow to be around? You know, maybe it's like, hey, let's make more people stupid so that we could discredit the opposition's message. Because I do think that there's a lot of like times when we're talking about the virus and, you know, the thing from 2020, there's a lot of people who unfortunately get swept up by those limited hangout discussions, you know, and they adopt talking points, sort of like when you get into an argument with someone like about whether this is a democracy or a republic. Yeah, it doesn't say in the founding document. Yeah, it is a republic, basically, or you can even say Republican democracy. But on a state-by-state basis, it would be a tough argument to say that New York State is not a democracy. That would be a tough one, because, I mean, if it quacks like a duck, it looks like a duck, is a democracy. If you don't want a democracy, move to a state that, you know, operates a little bit differently. But unfortunately, we seem to have a lot of mob rule here. And that's the thing, like, you know, you'll get into a discussion about the Electoral College, and it'll be like, well, shouldn't the people be ruling? And it's like a valid point of view, But there's a reason why, and part of it, the reason why we have the electoral college as an example is because the less populated states where we get our food, our farms are located, they don't get a say. And it's like, if those people were not getting a say and decided to stop doing what they're doing, we wouldn't be eating in our densely populated cities particularly well. And so that's sort of where I'm coming from on that. But getting back on this topic here, I'll have you on when I do my unopened Zoid build. It is still in the model frames. Never use clippers or sandpaper during the process. I twist and pull and grind nubs down with my teeth. Oh my god, yeah, I used to do it that way too. I think that's how, I think my first Gundam model, I might have used a utility knife and my mom's emery board, you know, just a regular rough sandpaper emery board. I even have some of the parts from my first Gundam, like in this desk. It's not a Gundam, it's a GM custom. Alright, I can't find it right now, but I do, and like they were pretty rough. Even when I looked at the pictures, it looked okay, but like you could tell I did a rough job on it. But let's hear this.
Hears him, oh, the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice, but the fool on and the eyes in his head.
Alright, now, see, now you're making it more complicated here. And it's true, lack of skill operating a camera is going to result in these like terrible images that are truly easy to debunk. If you want to be intellectually honest, get the solar filter, use the solar filter correctly, and then make your claim.
And he never listens to them. He knows that they're the fools, and they don't like him, but the fool.
I could perceive a curvature when I'm riding on the Verrazano Bridge, but in fairness, it might just be the design of the bridge, you know? I mean,
on the hill,
temperature changes being what they are.
The prediction of an eclipse. These are all...
She's immediate, like...
These are all calculated using a spherical model.
Well, whatever, I don't know those calculations.
I don't know what those calculations are.
So again, like this is not something that I'm like studying calculation.
No, really. I never would have thought that this is not something that she's studying calculations on. I never would have thought that. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever have gotten that perception. And by the way, the Padawannabe, yeah, I'd be happy to be on your stream while you're doing your Zoid build if you want. And I won't talk as much as I usually do, but I will render verbal assistance, and you know, we could do a build stream. We could do a build stream just like when I build a Gundam, or Stacks in Comics builds a comic, builds a Gundam. We could do something like that perhaps. I'd be up for that, man. Let me know. In whatever time and day is good for you, whenever you want, you know, I will coordinate, make sure we can sync up. And David says, YouTube hates my comments. That's another one that didn't make it to our host screen. Okay, I'm going to have to start using Rumble so that you could type shit and have free speech. So unfortunately, I don't get to spend more time with this lady right now. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me on this afternoon and hearing me out. I know I've got to get out of this habit of hopping on the flat earth thing, but I do, you know, think I'm trying to have a different approach, a friendlier approach. You know, I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into debates with people. I just want to pick apart the arguments. And yeah, if someone is stupid, yeah, I'm going to call them out for it. But you know, I mean, like, I just want to stem the tide. Like, you know, whether it's because of our education system failing us or something, I just want to, you know, stem the tide and put a body of information out onto the matter. But with that being said, you know, like I say, both you, the Padawannabe, and David Glenn, you both have a happy Thanksgiving. And with that being said, for anybody watching on the replay, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. And for now, we shall end